Hi, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our presentation of Say It Clearly, Communication Strategies to Help Grow Your Personal Brand and Professional Career as a Young Lawyer. We are so excited to be here today, and I want to introduce myself and my co-host because we're going to be spending some time together, so you should probably get to know us, and then we want to get to know you. So starting with Ivy, Ivy Gray is the Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for WordRake. WordRake is a company we work for, and it is the first and only automated inline editing software that helps lawyers and other professionals edit for clarity and brevity. She was a lawyer for 10 years and practiced bankruptcy law. She was named a 2020 Influential Woman in Legal Tech by ILTA, and she was one of Fast Case 50 honorees and the ABA LTRC Women of Legal Tech list honoree as well. Very impressive. I'm so glad that she's joining me for this presentation. And a little bit about me. My name is Nicole Abboud-Shayan, and I am the Business Development Associate for WordRake. I'm a former practicing attorney myself, and also the former host and producer of the Gen Y Lawyer podcast, which was recognized by the ABA as a top legal podcast 3 years in a row. And I'm also a millennial speaker. So now that you know a little bit about us, we want to get to know a little bit about you. So in the chat room, go ahead and type in your name, where you're tuning in from, so what city, what country if you're outside the US, and let us know if you're a law student or a practicing attorney. You can tell us your practice area as well if you want, but let's get to know each other. Let's start talking. Let's get the conversation going. So why are you here? What are you going to learn in this session that we have prepared for you? So today you're going to learn how to uncover your personal brand and develop your brand story. You'll learn how to connect your personal brand and what makes you interesting to the work that you do. We're going to help you focus and streamline your message. And you're also going to learn how to seek opportunities to practice all of these skills. So we've got a jam-packed session for you. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper. Let's get to it, because ultimately Ivy and I want you to leave this session feeling excited to be a young lawyer these days and feel prepared to take control of your personal brand and your message.
So, like you, I was a young associate during a recession. I graduated in 2008, and I was launched into a new and rapidly changing profession. How we practice law and the expectations for us were wildly different from that of lawyers who were just 2 years ahead of me. And with the COVID pandemic, things are changing again. All of your work and your networking will be online, so you're developing your brand through your writing more than ever, and the value of your brand is even more important. Throughout this presentation, you will notice an overarching theme. It's that to establish a personal brand that will lead to success in the law, you must be clear, concise, and focused. This applies to everything you do, from writing to speaking, from emails to legal briefs, and from a voicemail that you leave for a client to discussing your work with a partner. It's time to say goodbye to the mass memorization techniques that you may have used for law school and while you were studying for the bar. It's no longer about remembering as many facts as possible and regurgitating them as quickly as possible. You must be decisive with your words. You must be clear, concise, and focused. You'll have the opportunity to show it again and again. As a young lawyer, there are 3 questions that partners, judges, colleagues, and clients are always asking about you. These 3 questions form the basis of your reputation and brand. Are you trustworthy? Can you do the work? Can you bring in business? Clear, concise, and memorable messaging will lead those people to answer affirmatively. But meandering, overstuffed messaging does the opposite. So your job is to identify what matters and then confidently focus on it. When you do, the answer to each of these questions that I just asked will be yes. Using these 3 questions, we're going to help you establish a personal brand that is true to you, but also helpful in the professional world. Nicole will lead you through some exercises to help you discover your brand and focus it. Then I will help you apply these questions to your work and show you where or how to practice them in your most frequent assignments. And finally, we'll put it all together, showing you how to connect your brand with your work to grow professionally. Ready? Let's get started. The thing that everyone wants to know about a young associate is whether they're trustworthy and reliable. It's an innate part of who you are, and most lawyers don't think it can be taught. So you must establish this from the beginning, and unfortunately, you probably won't get a second chance. People expect you to learn to practice law, and that it will take some time and some amount of trial and error. They expect mistakes as you learn the substantive work. They don't expect you to make mistakes with your personality. Trust is the thing you have and key to every lawyer's success. Trust is hard to earn, but very easy to lose, and it's even harder to repair once it's broken. So start with the manner of your speaking. People who speak directly and confidently are seen as more trustworthy and reliable. That means don't hedge, don't and but also don't overstate what you know. It's okay not to know things. It's not okay to fail to realize that you don't know things. When you're not sure of yourself, you hedge and you meander to your point because, well, you're not sure what your point is. But excessive hedging and taking a long time to get to your point leads senior lawyers to conclude that you're not trustworthy and reliable. And all of the advice about learning to present your brand and the advice that we'll give you today on having focus will help you learn what to say, how to focus, and get to the point quickly, and how to contribute to the perception that you're trustworthy and reliable. The next thing that they want to know is whether you can do the work. They also want to know that you're eager to do the work. You may think that this means that you must pretend to know everything, but that's not true. Instead, you must understand where you can add value. But value doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from learning, focusing, and developing your judgment over time. While some firms expect more from associates these days, and clients are unwilling to pay for you to learn while you're on the job, you still aren't expected to know everything. But you are expected to be able to identify what's important. At this stage of your career, your goal is to show that you can learn information and retain it. Nobody wants an associate who must be retrained in each task each time that they're told to do it, or an associate who forgets all of their research as soon as they finish the memo. The final part of doing the work is showing that you understand the deliverable. If they ask for an email, give it to them. If they ask for a 3-page memo, don't give them a treatise instead. The good news is that with more work shifting to email, you have lots of chances to shine. Finally, senior lawyers want to know if you can bring in business. And your ability to bring in business is really based on your personal brand and your ability to connect with business people. The people who will bring in business have a clear story about who they are and what they like. If you like everything or aren't passionate about anything, you're forgettable. If you have a memorable hobby or interest as part of your personal brand, you'll have an easier time connecting with a client or a partner who cares about that thing and getting invited to client things where that is the main event. But a word of warning, your interest must be something that can be shared. So knitting or single shooter video games are probably not a good choice to promote. It's okay to elevate an interest to a higher position for the sake of your business brand. For instance, yes, I'm a swing dancer, and it is a conversation starter, but it's usually not something I can share. So when I'm working on my personal brand for work, I usually talk about my interest in ice hockey or rock music. Those are things that were far easier to share with my clients and partners, who were usually men. I eventually got into Scotch, and it became a major networking factor for me. And I got to be a part of a lot of big deals, mostly because of that interest and knowledge. So remember, going forward, make it an easy yes when these questions are asked about you. Now, Nicole's going to show you how to discover your own personal brand. She will help you get to a memorable, resounding yes.
Okay, so definitely keep those 3 questions in mind as we move through these exercises. But let's talk about discovering your personal brand. So first, what is a personal brand? You might have Googled this before. You might have heard many different definitions because there are a lot out there. But I found one that I really liked that I want to share with you, and I found it on the Influencer Marketing Hub website. So they say that your personal brand is how you promote yourself. It is the unique combination of skills, experience, and personality that you want the world to see. And it is the telling of your story and how it reflects your conduct, behavior, spoken and unspoken words, and attitudes. So basically, your personal brand is how you leave people feeling when you exit the room. It's what people think when they hear your name. It's basically your reputation. And in a professional setting, it's the collection of what people see, what they know about you from your online and social media presence, and what they think your capabilities are. So it follows that if this is your personal brand, if this is how we're defining your personal brand, then personal branding is the strategy and process of building your personal brand. So you'll hear me mention those two terms throughout this presentation. Now, to kind of drive it home, I want to share some examples of famous lawyers who have built amazing personal brands. So we definitely recognize Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice. And if you think about RBG, you think of her decorative collars and her calm demeanor, how soft-spoken she is, but what a ferocious advocate she is of women's rights. That all became a part of her brand. And that's what people think of when they hear her name. And now, I guess maybe contrast that to Justice Scalia, RIP, but he was known for his beautiful writing, right? An eloquent writer, and he was a little bit more outspoken. That was his brand, that was his thing. In that same picture, we have Brian Garner. Not sure if you're familiar with who he is, but he is a lawyer and expert in writing style, in legal writing. He is the editor-in-chief of Black's Law Dictionary, and he is all about words. I believe he even has an entire section that he contributes to the ABA Journal about words, legal writing specifically. So that's his brand. That's what he's become known for. And then over on the right, there's Johnny Cochran, an American lawyer and activist, best known for his role in defending O.J. Simpson. And over the years, the brand that he built became so strong that he was able to open law firms across the U.S. So all great examples of lawyers who were able to build strong brands because they were clear on what they stand for. So why should you even work on your personal brand? Why is this important? So you can either let your personal brand develop organically and essentially allow others to kind of craft their own story about who you are, about who they think you are. Or you can take control of your professional image and make sure that people know exactly who you are, what you stand for, and what you have to offer. So personal branding puts you in charge of your own narrative in an intentional way. And the reason that's important is because you want to be memorable. And we'll explain that throughout this presentation, why this is important. But you want to be able to connect with the right clients, especially if you're out there trying to bring in business. You want to build a reputation for yourself in this profession and make the right connections. You want to build the know, like, and trust factor, which becomes crucial when you're trying to speak to a judge, a jury, a potential client. And ultimately, you want to attract business as well. And working on your personal brand and having a clear personal brand will help you do that. Now, let's go through some exercises to help you get started on building this brand that we're talking so much about. So there are a lot of things that you can do to discover your personal brand, and know that this is a deeply personal and ever-evolving process. You're not going to nail it all today. This is really just meant to be an introduction for some of you. It might be the first time you come across this type of language, these types of exercises. And for others who have done personal branding work before, this could just be another refresher to help you realign. Either way, know that these are the beginning steps, and I tried to narrow it down to just 3 questions you can ask yourself to get started. Before anything, anytime you're approaching personal branding, it's good to take a step back and think about where you want your life to go in the next 5, 10, 20 years. What's the ultimate vision for your life? Do you want to run? Do you want to run for public office? Do you want to become a judge? Open your own firm? Grow a big family? Whatever it is that you want to do in life, your personal brand and all your actions are going to build towards that because that's what you want. So keep that in mind when you're working through these exercises. Just keep thinking, what's my ultimate goal in life? Now, the first question you're going to ask yourself to get started with your personal brand, to kind of get your mind thinking, get those wheels turning, is what do I stand for? What are my values? The second question is what makes me different and memorable, right? So what's your thing? And then the third question is, what do I want people to say about me when I'm not there? That's my reputation. So these are the three questions you're going to ask yourself, and all of the answers to these three questions will contribute to your story. Now we want to dive into each one a little bit further. Now your values are, or you have to know yourself before you can move forward with anything. Your belief system, your values, as we're going to explore a little bit further, are at the core of helping you determine what's important to you. It's going to help guide your decisions when you're choosing a firm to apply to, when you're deciding whether you want to take a case or not, or how you want to approach a certain matter. All of these relate back to your core values. They're guideposts, right? So your values they go a long way in helping you make decisions that affect your everyday life, professionally and personally. So let's take a look at some common values. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. It's just a good one that I found online. But read through these and pick maybe 4 or 5 that really speak to you. Which ones do you relate to the most? Which ones do you think define who you are, what your internal values are? And go ahead and write them down. And if you're feeling brave enough, go ahead and put them in the chat room as well and share it with us. But these are the values that you are going to carry forward with you as you build your brand. The next question is, what makes you different and memorable? So anything you list, any of these examples that I have on the page in front of you, they're just examples. They may or may not apply to you, but it's really just to get you thinking about what it is that makes you stand out. And whatever it is that ultimately you choose or that you write down, we're going to tie this into your story, because standing out for the sake of just standing out will do you no good, right? Like, you can be known for being the crazy sock lady if you have a crazy collection of socks, but that won't really get you far. That's not going to get you clients. So we want to focus on things that are going to make you relatable, but also make you the go-to person for referrals, for example. So think about whether you speak a foreign language, if you grew up in a certain type of community, if you have an X amount of years of experience in a certain industry that other people don't. Are you an ultra marathoner? It doesn't even have to be work related per se, right? Do you have a thing for collecting baseball cards? Whatever it is that you think makes you different, that you think would be a great conversation piece, write that down. The third part of building your brand, the third question I want you to think about and just kind of sit with for a while is, what do you want people to say about you when you're not there? Now, this is something you should definitely think about. You want to explore how it is that you leave people feeling once you leave the room. And as opposed to the first 2 questions, this is more outward facing. The first 2 were more internalized. It's whatever you thought about yourself, your values, what makes you different. This is more of, how are you going to present yourself to the world in a clear way so that people understand what you stand for. It's compelling enough to be memorable, and people want to work with you ultimately, and they want to hire you if you're a new lawyer and you're looking for a job. So how will you present yourself so that others perceive you the way you want to be seen? Now, Ivy is going to elaborate a little bit further on how you're going to build your reputation, because ultimately that's what this question is. So we'll cover that a little bit further as well later in the presentation. But keep in mind that whatever your answers were to these 3 questions, we want to try to tie them all together so they make sense, so they come together and make up your narrative, your story, and you have something tangible to share with people. Now, how does this appear in an actual example that you can start working on today and go in and use tomorrow? So let's try to put it all together into a short bio. So when you are submitting an article to the ABA, for example, if you're submitting an article that you wrote, if you are speaking on stage, if you're filling in your LinkedIn profile, you're going to be asked for your bio. A lot of people, or if you're actually filling in your attorney profile on a website as well. And I've seen so many bad attorney profiles that I really think this is an important exercise to do. So instead of writing out everything you've ever accomplished in your life or all the things that you think people want to know, it's better to keep it short, quick and to the point, and only highlight the things that are important. So an example that I put together is the following. So Sally Smith is an estate planning attorney with Hancock Associates. She has been recognized by the American Bar Association for community leadership and was awarded with the Top Attorney Award in 2019. Sally uses her specialized knowledge of estate planning to help low-income senior citizens at her local nonprofit center. When she's not helping families in court, Sally enjoys dancing, reading, and spending time with her dog, Max. Now, you'll notice that this kind of touches on all three of the questions that we just went over, because it talks about her community leadership involvement, her volunteer work. So these are the things that she values. She's compassionate. That was one of the values that she chose. We included some accomplishments in here to help her stand out as well and have some credibility and build her reputation in the community as well. And then at the end, granted, it's just, I could have written swing dancing, for example, like Ivy, but I just wrote dancing here. But that's where you would include something a little bit more personal, a little memorable, something quirky about you, for example, that others can relate to. But that speaks to your credibility as well as a young lawyer. So try to work on this weekend if you have some time. Write your short bio, try to keep it under 75 words. But if you're really up for a challenge, let's try to simplify this a little bit more. We are all about simplifying at WordRake, and if we can say something in fewer words, we will. So let's try to work on a tweetable tagline for you. So try to describe yourself in 280 characters, just like a tweet would be. Now, this is going to be your elevator pitch. It could be your social media profile if you just want to write a quick description of who you are. Or it can be your introduction to, or you can use it as an introduction to a new client or just a new colleague that you meet. You're not going to sit there and read them a long bio, even if it's less than 75 words. Instead, you want something quick, memorable, to the point. So how can you put this together? How can you put this tweetable tagline together? I have some examples to help you, but I like to follow a very simple formula. I don't try to overcomplicate it too much, at least not at first. I try to just kind of write down something and then fix it as I go along. But you can just write, I help blank. So write the type of client that you want to work with or that you tend to work with. Do blank. What is it that you help them achieve, right? Or you can say something like, I work with single fathers, for example, or I serve people who are, and then insert something else, right? So it's not just you listing your job title and the firm that you work for, because no one's going to remember that. No one cares. Maybe people don't understand what your job title is. Instead, you always want to lead with what it is that you actually do, how it is that you actually help people. And just quickly, I have some examples underneath. So a good friend of mine, Karima Gulick, she is an IP and patent attorney in Southern California. And her tagline, I guess her byline is, we help you take your ideas to a safe place. She has her own law firm. So you can see how that kind of gives you a little bit more of, it explains what she does without her flat out saying she's a patent attorney. And it piques people's interest. And they might ask, how do you do that, for example? For mine, I would say something like, I'm Nicole, and I help professionals who write for a living communicate with clarity and brevity. So when people ask me what I do, I don't just say I'm a business development associate at WordRake. I try to give them a little bit more by saying, we help people communicate better and write with clarity and brevity. So keep these in mind as you create your own short bio and then also tagline. And hopefully you work on it this weekend. But if you happen to work on it right now and you want to share it, again, drop it in the chat room. We definitely want to see it.
So now I'm going to talk about how you establish your reputation at work. Those are the things that go together. Once you have your personal brand and you have the thing that makes you interesting and you get the opportunity, what do you do with it? So as a young lawyer, you have two main opportunities at work to establish your reputation, and then there's one outside of it, and we'll talk about all three. So those three opportunities are email communication, legal research, and your social media engagement. At work, young lawyers they really do two things most. They send emails and they do research. So I'm going to focus on the first two of these things for a bit, and then Nicole will talk about strategies for using social media to build and enhance your personal brand. Yes, I like to focus on the boring stuff because that's me. So here's the good news. Email is where you're going to have the most opportunity, and you'll get to do it every day. You'll have lots of opportunities to get it right. Your skills will improve over time, and you'll also benefit from uncovering other people's expectations the more you work with them. So we've always understood that as a lawyer, your writing is your reputation, and your legal acumen is determined by how well you write. And we used to rely on formal memos to really demonstrate that skill, but now we're relying on email. Formal memos are no longer the primary method of communicating analysis between lawyers, regardless of seniority. And for many of you, email and email memos will now be your only opportunity to showcase your writing and analysis skills. Email will be how you establish your reputation, and it may be all that people know about you. Yes, this is the test. I know, it seems crazy that this is the test, but everything's the test. It's always a test. We used to know that we were being tested because we'd receive a big memo assignment and then we'd spend weeks on it. And that's what we were supposed to do, and we knew when we were supposed to invest our time. Not anymore. Here's the thing, though. It's not actually any less work to write an email, even though everybody expects it to be. In fact, it might be more work because people have less patience when they're reading it. The key to succeeding in writing a good email, and one that helps to grow your reputation, is to deliver it on time, focus on what's important, and put that right at the top. Be clear, concise, and organized. Okay, so we're writing emails, and unlike briefs or memos that were usually heavily edited and written in the voice of whatever the senior lawyer you were working with, your emails are written in your own voice, and you must decide what's important and convey that to the reader. Start with a strong subject line. Your subject line will set the tone for your email. I started my career as a journalist, so I think of it like a newspaper headline. What will give people the information that they need to make them want to open that email? Similar to a newspaper headline, the subject line summarizes the contents and sets a reader's expectations. No one will open an email with a blank, irrelevant, or one-word subject line like memo. A subject line should summarize the content in 3 to 8 words and include the next major deadline if there is one. It should set the expectations for what's inside. Don't promise ponies and then not deliver them. So now we're in the body of the email. And even though we're all working from home, you can't count on people to be sitting at their desk waiting for your email with Word open. Assuming your reader is busy and maybe chasing their kids and skimming your email on her iPhone, that means you only have 800 characters to get to the point. So put the main point first and let the details follow later. But remember, just because it's an email doesn't mean it's unimportant. This email will be part of the client file. The recipient is going to rely on this email and take some action or make a decision based on what you say. Start with a summary of takeaways or action items before you go into your analysis. Then, give context to tell the reader what this email is about and why you were writing. Give direct answers to any questions that you were asked. Again, no excessive hedging. This isn't a law review article weighing every idea and including 500 citations. And be sure to include a summary of the most important points, such as key holdings, the deadline, and the next steps. I know this one is tough, but it requires you to use your judgment about what's important. You must be confident in your decision, or you won't be able to give the information before the reader has to start scrolling. Lack of confidence means wordiness. Let's not do that. So, in 800 characters or less, address these points. Give a quick introduction, provide a roadmap of what to expect, then dive into your formal analysis. Deliver on whatever you promise to provide. The 800 character cutoff that I keep mentioning is what I call above the fold. It's old newspaper lingo that refers to what you see in a newspaper case before you stick your quarter in to buy it. Okay, so I'm a little older, so I'm not sure if people are used to actually seeing newspapers, but I'm sure you can imagine it. It's in that case and there's a quarter. So anyway, so this represents about 40 to 45% of what you'd be able to see on a single printed page. You get a bit more if your reader is viewing it in Outlook on a laptop. But before you freak out and start thinking that this is totally unmanageable, that there's something that you just can't do, and how are you going to manage this? There is something that's actually really good about this new electronic format. And when you're working with the electronic document, you get hyperlinks and more headings, and those headings can be linked. And you don't get that when you're only working on paper. So I really like it. So the shift to email requires a change in document design and strategies to communicate organization. But I think it overall makes it better, and I now love things in electronic form. So consider including hyperlinked navigation. Frequently use headings and hyperlink those too so you can skip around. Those are called bookmarks. And you can also link to your research and documents in the record. So that makes your email a living document that people can actually use. Finally, be mindful that when you provide more headings and white space to improve readability, there's a trade-off. The more white space you use that makes it a little bit more digestible, the more room the less room you have for substantive content on the screen. So you need to really balance those two things as you go forward. So let's take a look at how this plays out in real life. We're going to look at a real but anonymized 3-page memo from a big law associate. This table that you're looking at right now shows what's viewable in various different electronic forms as compared to a printed page. And now let's take a look at some of those examples. Here you can see how much of the email can be seen on an iPhone using Outlook or Gmail as compared to a printed page. 124 words about all that fits before the reader must scroll. While that would have been laudably brief on paper, it seems really long-winded in an email. That's because screen reading changes our perceptions of the content we consume. A paragraph that looks reasonable in print can be off-putting and just unmanageable on a smartphone. A harried partner may be willing to skim the first page of a printed memo if it's left on her desk, but we're not in that environment anymore. We're all working from home. And that means that you're working with partners who are reading on your phone, on their computer, and they're busy. And they're less willing to do that reading and to keep scrolling. So we have fewer characters to communicate important information. So we got to get to the point. If your reader's at her desk and working in Outlook, you get a little more space for your words. Now you have 190 to 240 words to make your point. It's better, but it still means that you must make your point quickly and right at the top of your email. If you're lucky, your reader may be willing to review your document in Microsoft Word, but that doesn't mean that you're out of the woods. It's still electronic review, and there's still scrolling involved. While that format feels more familiar and the words have more room to breathe, you still don't see that many words compared to a printout. So how can you improve the email reading experience so you can also improve your reputation? The answer is editing. The fewer words you waste, the more you can make count, and the more that you can make that tiny amount of viewable real estate matter. Personally, I use WordRake for Outlook, and I also use it for everything I write in Word. I honestly don't know how I ever lived without it. WordRake ripples through your writing and marks up what you write in that familiar track changes form, and it shows you what useless words you can get rid of. And you can do it more than once. In fact, you save space when you rake twice, which I didn't realize until I started working here that you could rake twice. So when you have so little room to get to your point, it really matters. In the sample memo that we viewed, WordRake gave me 31 space-saving suggestions and cut over 200 words. It shortened sentences and tightened the document overall and increased viewable real estate by 3%. I'd call that a win. So when you can decisively decide what's important and write clearly and concisely, then you're building on your brand as a go-to associate, and you get that opportunity with every email. Okay, so what you're usually delivering and what you're writing when you're working on all of these emails, it's probably the result of your research. So let's talk about that a little bit. If you've done all of the research for a case, other lawyers will expect you to be the go-to resource on that case. You will need to be the expert on what you learned, and that needs to stick. Nothing bothers a lawyer more than when you forget your research and you have to reread the cases or redo the work. And more importantly, no client wants to pay for you to do the work twice. So you've got to come up with a way to do the research once and remember what you learned for months. Have your research at the ready and be able to talk about it at a moment's notice. This will help your reputation. It shows that you're trustworthy, reliable, and that you can do the work well. There are a few ways that you can prepare for these follow-ups about your work. First, as you're researching, make notes in the margins, summarizing as you go. It's important to work in the margins because it forces you to be selective about the information and choose to be concise. You practice it. Second, when you're done reading a case, write a one-sentence summary about what this case is about or what point this case makes that's relevant to your research task. Try to include a detail that will jog your memory. Who doesn't remember Paul's graph and the box of fireworks trying to board the train on the weekend before the 4th of July? We all remember that case because of the details, and it delivers the standard for the zone of danger and foreseeable harm. Those details help you, so make sure you include them in your summary. Third, keep a research folder so that you can go back to your work. Try tagging and summarizing. I personally like to use Evernote, but you can also use Lexis Plus, and you can use OneNote, and you can even use tags in your Word documents in Windows. Finally, if you think that you know that you're going to be asked about this soon, practice saying your concise summary of the case out loud. Think of how you might have practiced for cold calling in law school, and try that. You should be able to speak confidently and clearly to the partners. So let's look at how you can present your research in a way that solidifies your reputation as the go-to associate. So when you're asked about your research, you should be able to state your client's case or your issue in 100 words or less and have a single line ready for what each case is about. If a partner asks these questions, you want to be able to immediately answer with confidence. It's unacceptable to say that you have to do the research again simply because you're disorganized or because you forgot. Instead, always save, organize, and manage your work so that you can use it again at any time. Try keeping your notes, as I said, in Evernote or OneNote or somewhere else where you can quickly retrieve them. If that's stacks of paper with Post-it notes on your desk, that's also fine. Not everything needs to be high tech. So use the tech tools to your advantage, at least, so that you can report on details from your research without having to slowly shuffle through the stack. And if you're using that stack, you should tab it and do other things to make it easy for you to get through it. So if you've done all of this, when you're asked, you'll be ready to answer. And this is the formula we like to use. The real key is the part in that white box that you see. So try it. So you asked me to find blank. There were blank number of cases on point. The most important one is blank because blank. This shows your focus. And then you want to get into talking about that case. This is a case about the zone of danger or whatever it is. In this case, the court held blank. And then these three facts are similar. Find some way so that the partner knows that you know what mattered, and then the partner can also remember the information. Seriously, the associate who gets ahead is the one who does the work once, but remains the expert for the length of the case. So how do you remember your work so people will remember you? And I say that's with planning and practice. So that's how you get through the substantive work. Now let's take a look and show you how your knowledge and your reputation can build your connections outside of the office using social media.
And I seriously started sweating when you talked about cold calling in class. Just thinking back to how I used to think I needed to stuff every piece, every detail of the case into my report back to the teacher. and
cold calling was my favorite.
Of course. Well, but these are the things that you're not really taught in law school, the email, the importance of email, legal research, by keeping it brief. As a law student, you think that every detail is important. And I know that with time, with practice, you start deciphering what is and what isn't. But as a lawyer, the rules are different. And you can definitely be a little bit more concise. You should be more concise for the reasons that Ivy listed. So these are great examples of how lawyers can break out of that habit of what they learned in law school and just get straight to the point, because lawyers are busy. So the third way that you can build your reputation and as a result build your personal brand is through social media. So that's another thing that we're not taught in law school, but it's okay. We're going to cover some of it today. So you are busy as a young lawyer, you're busy as a law student, or whatever you are, whatever profession you're in, and you might not have time to create your own content, which is a huge part of building your brand. But another also major part is curating content. and engaging on social media. So if you don't have time to sit and write a blog post yourself or create a video, then you should definitely make time to collect and share the knowledge of other people, which in turn actually contribute to your own brand. And I'll explain how that works. But let's say that you are interested in becoming known as a legal technology expert. You are going to start sharing articles, other social media posts. You're going to start sharing and collecting information from others who are also legal tech experts and sharing it on your own social media profiles. And this can be on any platform that you're engaged on. And it doesn't matter if it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but you are going to start collecting information from other people based on the subject that you want to become known for, or whatever it is that you want to become known for, and start posting. And this can be a quick exercise that you do every single day. But in doing so, in curating content from other people, you start building your reputation. You start building up your own name recognition, even though it's not necessarily your content that you're sharing. And you build your brand. You let people know that you exist and become familiar in the community that you're trying to immerse yourself into. It also shows that you have a deep interest in your work and you care about staying up to date with the latest trends and fads that are going on. You know what's happening in the community. You could establish a foundation for rainmaking. It's a great way to connect with potential clients, with other lawyers who become your referral sources. You show your ability to spot relevant content and summarize it. Again, if you are sharing an article on Twitter, for example, you are more than likely, in fact, you're encouraged to add your 2 cents to it. So add those up to 280 characters of your own thoughts, your own explanation of what happened, and share that article. So you're kind of adding your own thoughts to the mix, and you become seen as a thought leader in that space as well. And of course, it gives you an opportunity to practice clear and concise writing. Because social media, depending on the platform, is so limited in space, you're not able to write pages and pages of information like you would in a brief, for example. So you are forced to narrow in your thoughts, hone in on what you're really trying to say, focus on your message, and get that out. Get that to the people who follow you or who read your posts. And of course, it gives you an opportunity to practice your voice. And I know that can be very scary as a young lawyer. You don't really want to put yourself out there in that way and be controversial, but no one's saying you have to be controversial. Just adding your thoughts to something, your own explanation, your 2 cents, and injecting some personality into it is exactly what's going to connect you or help you connect you to other people, specifically to clients, hopefully, to potential clients. So if you don't have time to create, you can curate and engage. And the best way to get started, I'll come back to that slide, is to start by following people that you admire. Follow publications, follow different companies and law firms and see what they're talking about on whichever platform that you want to be on, whatever social media platform you choose. But follow people you respect and just listen at first. Just see what they're talking about and see if there's an opportunity for you to jump in and add, again, a commentary that's going to drive a conversation, that's going to drive the conversation or get someone to respond to you as well. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It can be 15 minutes a day if that's all you have. It can be 5 minutes a day if that's all you have, really. But trying to be consistent with showing up on social media, sharing who you are, showing your human side, your personality, that's going to go far in getting people to know you, to like you, to trust you. And again, for you to build your brand as a young lawyer. And to show you some examples of lawyers that I think are doing a great job of curating and creating content on social media to build their own brands. These are some examples of people you can follow. And let's see, the first one is our good friend, Ivy and I, our good friend Nick Rishwain, who works at experts.com. But Nick, aside from his day job, he is a legal technology expert. He loves it. He talks about it. And if you follow his Twitter, you'll see that a lot of what he does on Twitter, on Facebook Live, through live streaming is tailored to and centers around legal technology. And he talks about it so much that he became an expert himself and people invite him to speak on that topic all the time. a young lawyer, Jordan Couch, in the upper right-hand corner. You can follow him on Twitter, but he uses all the platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok even, to build his brand. And he is a workers' comp attorney. He doesn't just talk about workers' compensation because that's not all he wants to be known for, but he is a huge advocate of young lawyers. Recently, he's been talking a lot about the bar and diploma privilege. And I see that so often, and I see his name associated with everything he's talking about, that I associate that topic with him. And you best believe that's happening to others as well. So now if someone's looking for a diploma privilege or bar exam expert or someone to speak on that topic, he's going to be the one to reach out to. Another quick example, Kim Bennett, lower left-hand corner. She is a phenomenal lawyer who uses subscription model to charge her clients, or that's how she set up her law firm. It's very innovative. She ditched the billable hour. She always speaks up against the billable hour. And that's what she's become known for as well. So now she's become an expert in how to set up your law firm based on a subscription model instead of the billable hour as well. So all of these are examples of lawyers who built brands just by either creating content or mostly curating content. They're just pulling articles from other people and sharing them, adding their thoughts to it. And that did the job. So let's put it all together. I know we covered a lot of ground. We shared a lot of great examples and information today, but what does it all mean together? As Ivy mentioned, times are changing. Times have changed for the past year. And COVID definitely brought its own challenges, especially for young lawyers, for new and young lawyers. But I, for one, am very optimistic, and I see a lot of great opportunities for young lawyers to take advantage of the fact that a lot of things are online now, and a lot of communication is performed through email. You can engage on social media. We have access to all these tools. They're right at our fingertips, where even if we're home, even if it feels like we're not really able to go and meet new people, we're still able to build our brands, show that we can do great work as young lawyers, and hopefully build the career of our dreams.
You know, I actually think it's easier in this new era to get involved because you don't have to be geographically close to anything anymore. And it used to be that you had to save up the money to get on a plane to go to the Clio Cloud conference, and now you can participate in it right from your own living room.
That's true.
And there's just the barrier to entry is a lot lower, and I'm definitely willing to participate in a lot more things now that I don't have the travel budget or the travel time. So I think that young attorneys should look at it like an opportunity rather than something that they're missing.
Yes, definitely.
So for me, like Nicole managed the memorable part and being relevant and all the exciting things. And for me, it's really that you have to do the good work. And it's important to recognize that your work and your reputation are inextricably linked. Your brand story is a huge part of who you are. Your personal brand and your work reputation should tell a unified story, something that goes together. That story should bring you opportunities and reinforce your strengths. You know, if you're a confident guy who leads his football team to victory, or an insightful yet risk-taking rock climber who can confidently choose the right hand and toe holds to, top rope to guide a partner to safety through a climb, then you need to be that person who's decisive and confident on paper too. If you're the team player or the relief pitcher or the closer who comes in and finishes the game when no one else can, that's good too. Be that person. But if you're more cerebral and you're the strategic and detailed chess playing savant, then you also need to be true to yourself and be that person, not somebody else. Decide who you are and be that person consistently. Consistency is likable and trustworthy. Being likable and having a good reputation earns you a chance at some good work. And the work that you do solidifies that reputation and earns you the opportunity to do more. So congratulations, you did a lot of great work, you get more work. But still, it's important. It may seem small now, but getting these opportunities early means that you have the skills to build on. And that difference rapidly becomes significant. The associate who's available to turn around quick research that is immediately usable gets staffed on the major case that comes in on a Friday afternoon. And yeah, the idea of working on a Friday is terrible, but those can be some of the best cases that really make your career. And that work sets you up to attend depositions and write parts of briefs that get included. And that in turn sets you up for more opportunities, and you can argue motions in court. And those opportunities are necessary for your portfolio of work that sets you up for partnership consideration. And the earlier you start, the stronger your profile is. So good work and a good reputation have a ripple effect on your career. Be somebody who can focus on the right things and deliver information confidently. Whether it's speaking or writing, nothing says confidence like clear and concise language. So remember, practice clear, concise, confident communication in everything that you do. You'll be seen as trustworthy and you'll have a better reputation.
So some resources that we want to share to help you get started that we use for different purposes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We can go in any order.
Okay. Ones that I use to help me schedule my social media so I'm not doing it live if I don't have time. Two great resources are Buffer and Hootsuite. They both have free versions, and they allow you, again, to schedule your social media posts if you think that you're not going to have time throughout the week, but you have, let's say, an hour on Sunday night. Take some time, use these scheduling tools to set up what you want to post for the rest of the week. And then you almost can set it and forget it, aside from going in and engaging with any comments that you receive. Another quick resource that I want to mention that I love using is Feedly. And that is where I'm able to input different websites and kind of aggregate all the different sources of information that I want to read in the beginning of the week. And I do this every Monday morning. So I just it pulls from different publications online and kind of aggregates it all in one place. So I'm able to read the news all in one place at once without searching different websites.
So I rely heavily on Evernote. I've mentioned it a couple of times during this presentation. Evernote is a note-taking app designed to collect and organize text, and it will also handle pictures, videos, and audio recordings if you want that. The two most useful features, I think, are the note tags and the Web Clipper browser extension, which I use in Chrome. So I keep notebooks organized by topic, and then I tag by keywords. The note tags will work like tags in a blog post or like a hashtag, and it gives you another method for organizing. So I tag legal tech and anything with the billable hour, and I can cross-reference those things because I like to stay up on those sorts of things. And I have this dream of writing a major white paper on billable work. I know that's
a very
sad.
Common dream. Yeah.
But it helps you to keep track of those things. And then I use the Web Clipper to really manage and track any blogs or articles or other things that I find online that I want to reference. It's probably one of the most useful features, and it allows me to say, this is interesting, I want this later. And that is an important thing that you should have in your arsenal, because you never know what's going to happen. You're going to get busy, things take off, and it's great to be able to do that. The final thing that I like about Evernote is that it's all backed up to the cloud. So when I used to actually go places, I would sit down and read other notes and things that I'd clipped on my phone, on the train or while I was waiting for a train. It was great. The thing, though, to know is that because it's backed up to the cloud, you do need to be careful about confidential information. And I wouldn't use it for my client documents, but I could use it for my research and other notes. So finally, my other tool is WordRake. I love it because it makes my writing tighter, and I used it for my practice for 3 years before joining the team. And as you've heard throughout this presentation, it's editing software designed by a legal writing expert, and the main purpose is to help you edit for clarity and brevity. It's like an editor that ripples through your document, making suggestions in the familiar track changes format. It will improve weak lead-ins, improve confusing language, correct high-level grammar slips and usage errors. And it's really cool because it works in Outlook. So with all of our work moving mostly to email, it's easy to think that you don't need to edit it. And a tool like WordRake will help make sure that you do. And I rake every single message that I ever send, and I love it.
So we are definitely, so we want to open it up for some questions from the audience if there are any. So get those ready. Please go ahead and drop them in the chat room. But in the meantime, we have our contact information on the screen and encourage you to take a picture, write it down, and connect with us. Both Ivy and I reach out, send us emails, connect on LinkedIn or Twitter if you have any additional questions that we can't answer today or didn't get to. But I want to say thank you. I think we both want to say a huge thank you for all of you
Thank
for
you.
tuning in. Ivy, I don't know if you
Yeah.
have a special thank you you'd like to share.
Nope. Thank you for having us and tuning in. This was exciting, and really growing your personal brand is a huge part of being successful in in this industry. And I look forward to seeing how you all grow and hearing from you about how this helped.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, thank you. And we'll take some questions.